When I was a kid, I was a huge fan of the game Rampart. This was a classic arcade game from Atari where the player built up the defense of a kingdom and then took on the opponents, which were either a bunch of battleships or the other players. This kind of game would be classified as a tower defense these days, but what I liked about it was how it effortlessly incorporated elements from real-time strategy games. This is why I instantly fell in love with the brand new game Becastled, a clever mashup that sees us building up a city by day and fighting off hordes of enemies at night. It's a game that pulls the best elements from both real-time strategy and tower defense, yet it never fully commits to either side, giving us a truly unique experience that I had a hard time putting down. Hello citizens of Switch Planet, my name is Cyril, and today I want to introduce you to Becastled, my newest Switch obsession. For as deep and complicated as Becastled initially looks, it's surprisingly easy to get sucked into. Simply put, this is a game about growing a kingdom in the middle of a large, barren map. The goal is to attract new citizens and then put them to work mining for resources, building new structures, farming for food, and most importantly, assembling an army to defend your fledgling kingdom. And you won't just be defending the good people from enemy attacks, because you'll also need to send them across the map to destroy a series of glowing spires. If you can do all that before either time runs out or the kingdom gets decimated by an evil enemy force, you'll live happily ever after, ready to do the whole thing all over again on a different map and presumably higher difficulty. Now, I mentioned at the top that the game pulls elements from both the real-time strategy and tower defense genres. But when it comes down to it, there's also a lot of SimCity in here. A lot of your job revolves around keeping the citizens happy all year round, even during the brutal winters that leave you hungry and without heat. For your kingdom to thrive, you're going to need to keep everybody employed, furnish them with suitable houses, have food around, and make sure that they're all protected. This will make people actually want to come to your kingdom, speeding up the growth and making it a lot easier to reach your goals. During the day, you'll construct new buildings and put your citizens to work. In order to build new and different structures, you're going to have to get people to chop down trees for the sawmill and mine different materials, including something called a sunstone, which basically works like money. You're also going to need to keep everybody fed, which means working the wheat fields, fishing the nearby lakes, hunting for meat, and manning a farm. But again, watch out for the winter, because that's when everything ices over and you can't grow crops. This will force you to either rely solely on meat, or you're going to have to build a couple of barns and warehouses to keep your food and materials tucked away for hard times. Now, when night falls and all the workers go home, you're going to need to fight off a series of increasingly difficult armies. This starts out simple enough, usually with only a couple of bad guys to defeat. The ragtag soldiers that you start with are more than enough to plow through the starter enemies. However, these hordes quickly become harder and more ruthless. Thankfully, you'll be able to upgrade your soldiers and even create new types of fighters, including knights and archers with flaming arrows. You'll even be able to assign a banner to some of the soldiers, giving them a unique aura that'll improve your chances in battle. Much like Rampart, there's this fun tug-of-war between preparing your kingdom for the worst and picking up the pieces after an especially grueling fight that sees your houses and buildings destroyed. Part of your day is going to be spent cleaning up from the night before, while the rest of it is devoted to growing a thriving kingdom and taking out those evil spires. It won't take long before you're building walls for protection and towers for long-range attacks. There's a full skill tree full of ways to defend your base, including new weapons and bigger artillery. Every single time I felt like I had figured the game out, it would send me down a brand new path full of upgrades and weapons and buildings to research. And that is what makes this game so great. There really is no right or wrong way to play it. Sure, you're always going to have to account for the nightly attacks and keep your citizens happy and safe, but you can do all of that in so many different ways. I took a more aggressive approach in one playthrough, while I tried to be a little bit more passive in another game. You can take the slow and methodical strategy, which will allow you to build your own perfect utopia before getting too deep into the action. However, you'll have just as much fun personalizing every playthrough. The choice is really up to you. And that's certainly true when it comes to the maps. You can choose from what feels like a randomly constructed stage that is either a hilly map, one with a lot of flat land that is open, and a third that really prioritizes rivers and lakes. You're going to need to tackle each of these types of maps differently, which will really keep you on your toes. This is the kind of game that you can play every single day and no session is going to be exactly the same. And while I found the nighttime battles to be tense and sometimes even brutal, I found growing the kingdom and tending to the people's wants and needs to be surprisingly satisfying. Honestly, it's the same feeling that I get when I play SimCity, and it's the reason that I'm going to be playing this game for a long time to come. Speaking of being surprised, I went into this game figuring that I was going to connect the most with the action. However, what I found was that the real fun of this game was in the micromanaging of the castle. I loved exploring the map and expanding the reach of the kingdom. I liked juggling the different jobs based on what I needed to build the new church, or upgrade the houses, or even research the catapult. You won't always have enough people available to take on all of the different jobs, especially if you're growing a formidable army. This means that you're constantly going to need to be moving people around the board, making sure that you always have food, money, and building materials. And sometimes your army is going to get completely obliterated in an especially gruesome battle, forcing you to quickly rebuild your fighting forces with farmers and bakers and hunters that are keeping your kingdom alive. Even without a proper story, I found myself riveted by the lives of these people. I always tried my hardest to keep them safe, even when they collectively turned on me after I started taxing them. What I especially like about this game is how easy it is to play on the Switch. This is one of those genres that has always been notoriously hard to streamline for a game controller, but developer Monopotion Studios has done a wonderful job making it work on a standard gamepad. Part of what makes this work is that all the menus are big and perfectly suited for a home console. It's also incredibly accessible, even to those who have no experience with either tower defense or real-time strategy games. And because we aren't fighting and city building at the exact same time, it gives us enough time to really focus on what's important. If you ever get overwhelmed with the options, upgrades, and different building types, you can either slow down time or just stop it completely, giving you all the time you need to plan out your strategy. The game doesn't rush you, though that doesn't mean that you won't feel the urgency. Look, even when you slow things down, you're going to have to realize that there's not enough hours in the day to get everything done before a brutal fight over the glow of the blood moon. Just not enough time. You know, Becastled really is an ideal fit on the Switch, especially with handheld mode. This is the kind of game that'll suck you in for hours at a time, yet it's only going to feel like a few minutes have passed. Not since Advance Wars have I been this captivated by a game. And what's great about Becastled is that it actually comes with a couple of different ways to play. You can take on those evil spires in the standard free play mode, or you can try your luck with the sandbox mode, which allows you to really experiment with no resource constraints. There really are a lot of ways to play and enjoy this game, and it just keeps getting better the more my skills grow. Look, if you're anything like me and you enjoy growing kingdoms and fighting opposing armies, then you're going to love the depth and freedom found in Becastled. No matter if you're a fan of tower defense or real-time strategy, this clever mashup finds a way to be different and give us something new. I strongly recommend that you play Becastled and see why it's a perfect fit on the Switch. It's a great game.
Okay everyone, thanks so much for watching. If you liked that video, please leave a like and subscribe, and ring the bell if you want to get notified when we release new content. We hope to see you in the next video.